July 20th or an APAC 21st, SEC Growth ModelOps staff meeting. Few people here because I scheduled this. I canceled this, and then just a couple hours ago, I rescheduled it, which is okay. All meetings are optional. And we record them like this recording. So Jay and Tiago, I don't know if you had anything to add to the agenda. I just had a couple small things. The first is waiting for Mon to connect. Hey, there's Mon. Okay. The first is the cross-functional reviews with the cross-functional review with the quad for growth went well. The secure one was supposed to be today, but was delayed because the data in Snowplow SciSense is out of date for the 15.3 issues by 12%. And we want the dashboards to be accurate before we analyze them. Kind of makes sense. So we set the goal of 5%. It should be no more than 5% different. I've been poring over the issues for all stages because I'm the overall facilitator for the working group, not just for my teams. And the primary cause is for secure, as is many other teams, is a lot of issues were updated. The milestone was updated in the last day, and SciSense is more than a day behind. No surprise. So we are all sorts of things going into that of how do we get SciSense or what's behind it, Snowflake, or what's behind that feeds it, which is like a 3-step process, each of which a delay or a failure can cause the data to be delayed, which I know, Jay, you know this very well from growth time, because that impacts experiments a lot with those data delays. It's a similar challenge. So I'm going to engage on those things. In the meantime, we're going to wait until it's ready, which right now I rescheduled it to Tuesday next week. Some other stages are in good shape too. Like, I forget which ones. Some of my peer stages where the variance is not that much. In other stages, it's a big variance. So we're also going to change when we do these reviews. We try to do them early enough into the next milestone or the current milestone so that people can review it and give feedback. But if you do it before the data is available, you're doing it on junk data. So we've got a bit of a chicken and egg problem there, and we were too aggressive with the dates this time. Sometimes it's not there because the team hasn't done the work yet. Sometimes the team can't do the work. They have to see, for example, what was close to making 15.2 but didn't before you know it's going to be in 15.3, because those 15.2 things some of them move to 15.3. But you don't know that till the last day of the milestone, of the previous milestone. And then you got to wait a day or two for the SciSense. You got to wait for people to update them from 15.2 to 15.3. And then you have to wait for the SciSense stuff to update as well, which is another couple of days. So we're going to figure it out. But Tiago, you have some comments on this.
Hoping that someone can point me to a solution, but with SciSense updates, we have a dashboard that sometimes times out, and something recently changed. You can't hit retry multiple times within 24 hours. So if in a 24 hours period you hit retry and it timed out, too bad, try again tomorrow.
Oh, that ticked me off today. Sorry, it's being recorded. Maybe I shouldn't say it that way, because I was trying to do the same thing. I raised that with the data team. And here's the thread on it.
Excellent.
Net is they were worried about database load with lots of people doing refreshes often, so they disabled it, but they were perhaps too aggressive with that. So take a look at that.
I'm sure there was a good reason. Yeah. Excellent. Thank you. This is exactly what I was looking for.
Well, I don't know if it's an answer. I don't know if it's a good answer. Jay, you had a comment.
Yeah. If we're looking at the data before the milestone starts, we should probably just be ensuring that there's enough issues for engineers to work on of like the type distribution that we want. But when we look at it after the milestone ends, we should probably be looking at how many MRs were completed with those types, right? Or am I being naive about this?
Exactly right. We haven't done the MRs yet in this process in terms of reviewing them at a section level or at a group level. And then, having outsiders review, like me, I guess I'm partially an outsider, or others like Eric reviewing them, or, others in the working group. We wanted to do one round of planning the issues with this in mind and a milestone. And then even though we're tracking the MRs and historically, we're not going to review the MRs until 15.3 is baked. Then when we're planning 15.4, we're going to look at planned issues for 15.4 and review the 15.3 MR trends. Although I did do that some for growth because the data was there. And it's interesting is, I don't know if these are just data points. And I don't know what to make of them, or if we make anything of them. And it's just growth, not in a bad way, but it's one team. A feature, the ratio of MRs, of issues to MRs for features, for growth at least, is 1 to 2. Each feature issue tends to create 2 MRs on average. And for bugs and maintenance, it's 1 to 1, 1 issue to 1 MR. I'll be interested to see if that follows for other groups, other teams, and does that mean anything in terms of our iteration of how we want to do stuff with iteration? I don't know. It's just an interesting data point.
Can you repeat those numbers? I want to write them down in the agenda.
Yeah, I have notes somewhere. I probably should comment. So for growth only, it's each feature issue on average creates 2 MRs. Each maintenance issue and each bug issue create on average 1 MR.
That makes sense. I think often engineers are trying to reduce the size of MRs to get their work in and get like a decent, low review time. So I don't find that surprising unless there's some sort of
I haven't looked at issue weight.
job.
Maybe that by next is, what is the average MRs based? What is the MR to issue weight ratio? That might be like, you might expect more MRs for a larger weight issue, or maybe not. Maybe we're not breaking those issues up enough in some cases, or maybe we are. I don't know. Sorry, Jay, I interrupted you. Anyway.
Thanks for that, Wayne. I wrote it down on the agenda. It rings true to me. It rings, my personal experience is more or less that, but bugs are usually, and that 1 MR also takes longer for everything, for refinement, for review, for writing it.
Good stuff. So an FYI, I got an awesome response rate via setting up a form where people could respond about how do we improve the MR rate? What can we do from your perspective to improve the MR rate for your group? I think is what it said. So I had an anonymous survey. They could put in they could respond to it, putting their name in if they wanted, but it was anonymous. 1 question, open-ended, and then their name if they wanted to. And then I DM'd every engineer, which was a lot of manual effort. And thanks, Neil, for pointing out that I missed one. So I since did that because it was a copy and paste. And some people responded in Slack, which is fine. Some in the forum, which is fine. Some not at all, which is fine. Their response rate was great. It's like greater than 50%. Generally, on these kinds of things, we get 10%. So I don't know if because the question was really interesting or really hated, or because the people liked the anonymous survey, or they liked the Slack method, or they just like you get people's attention via direct message more than anything else, even tagging their group. I don't have any insight. So Tiago, you asked any early insights. I've gotten bogged down in this cross-functional project. So no, other than anecdotally, I already mentioned one. There's a pattern of perhaps we should break issues down that are big into smaller issues so then the MRs can follow. Some were not, we indicate we need to do some education on it. Like somebody said, well, but we need to solve more technical debt so we can improve the MR rate. Maybe I need to think about that one more, but it sounded like they thought maintenance was not included in the MR rate, and it is. Maybe I misunderstood what the person was saying. It might be that the technical debt is stopping iteration, and if we do that, it'll make it so we can be more iterative. I don't know. Some were, I don't like the MR rate. This sounds like counting lines of code. And I'm itching to respond to that. It is not lines of code. Everybody hates lines of code, including me, but some are not a believer in it. And I'm not surprised. it was only a couple, it was only maybe one or two people, but like I want to make sure they're heard, and we talk about why we do it, et cetera. Another was we have MR rate. That's a goal for the team? And that's okay-ish for an engineer to say. I think it was a newer engineer to the team. But like, we want to make sure that team members know it's not an individual MR rate, it's a group MR rate, but they should be aware of it.
Wait,
So
Wayne, not
those
to
are
put you
the-
in the spot, but
all anecdotal,
the survey
not
is anonymous.
trend.
How do you know it's a new engineer?
It's anonymous by choice. It's by default anonymous.
Right.
Probably of the more than half the people who responded told me who they were.
All right.
Or for that one, I don't know if that person said that it was new. They were new. I don't know if they gave their name. I think that they may have given their name. I think they said, "I'm new to the team," and it was one
Just
of
for
those
the people watching, in case anybody's worried about that.
Yeah.
Oh.
No, the person made it obvious. So,
But he was anonymous. Yeah. Cool. Thank you.
so no trends yet. I really want to dig into the data. I just haven't had time to. So, Jay, you want to verbalize your comment?
Oh yeah, I received feedback that the anonymous option was welcomed. So,
Okay. And some people surely did anonymous. I like it when people want to do that and they do it, because otherwise they wouldn't give any feedback or that feedback. So yay. I like it also when people are not doing that, because then I can engage in a conversation on it, which I'm planning to do. Everybody who responded, I'm going to respond to, and I've responded to nobody yet other than thank you. But I'm going to. That's all I had. Sorry for having everything in the agenda. Anything else we want to discuss?
Yeah, I apologize. I made the mistake of starting the setup process for M1 Mac this afternoon, and that was a egregious error on my part. Otherwise, I'd add it here. Did everyone see the note on FedRAMP and proposed change to security issues?
Yeah, I did. And thanks for bringing it up. I've commented. I made sure Christopher's seen it. I don't know if David's seen it yet. I think he's traveling between cities in the East Coast US right now on a train or something like that, I heard. So I'm sure he's behind, but I could changing our goals on how long it take, what we have for resolving security issues is a laudable goal, but will upend all our priorities because for many teams, because they're not expecting things to go from 180 days to 90 days. We'll suddenly see a large number of things behind, and either we're okay with that, or we change the priorities for the team to go after them, which will upend that team's priorities. So the person who proposed that, it's great. I understand why they did, because they're working on FedRAMP. And I made sure that Christopher and David saw it, because I think it would need Christopher and David's input before it gets merged. And it is listed as draft, which is good. And Christopher has since engaged and asked all his directs to engage on it, which I know Tim did and I did and a couple other people did. So that's good. Jay, you want to verbalize?
No, I think my memory has been refreshed. Thanks for the reminder on FedRAMP. But Migration Assistant was helpful for my M1 setup, Thomas. I don't know if you're trying that.
I did. That's what took over both Macs for 3 hours.
Right.
Hence, egregious error was made. Mistakes were made.
Okay.
I wasn't expecting it to do that. Not even. But the link that I didn't pull out there is that this was one of those top 12 cross-functional items for the whole company, and so FIPS was the precursor for it. It's a proposal.
Is the migration assistant offhand enough to fire it off at night and go to bed and not come back in the morning to, hey, do you really want to continue with this?
A wiser person may choose to do that. However, I have received a warning after I started that if you are a GDK user, you may not want to do this. So
Well, I'm looking forward to having these problems before the Australian summer. My people in Europe, their M1s, their MacBooks Pros from 2019, 2018, they simply don't work. Zoom crashes, and it's bad. Anyway, thank you. Since I'm talking, and you mentioned FedRAMP, and I thought of FIPS, you posted something on the SEC section, so.
that was big. Yeah, we're 100% complete on FIPS. So that's big. That's really big. So thank
Hey,
you,
and
everybody.
Jay, I'm glad you asked the question about what's FedRAMP, because I think I'm gonna describe what I think it is, and let's test my knowledge. So FedRAMP is, if you're approved for FedRAMP, U.S. federal government groups can buy your stuff, and it involves both software and the hosting environment and people procedures on how you manage that environment, that cloud environment. FIPS is a subset of FedRAMP. FIPS is for software. And I think this bug resolution time is a FedRAMP thing, perhaps, for any software in FedRAMP. So we have to figure out what to do with that. FIPS was, we need to make the software do do these kinds of things with encryption and not those kinds of things, and have these kinds of permissions to have, basically meet some base security needs. And when we analyzed GitLab, a large portion of it was compliant with FIPS without even trying, and a couple portions we had some concerning areas we wanted to resolve, like using some outdated hashing algorithms that were many years ago cryptographically secure, and since then have been broken, and other things like that. So does that seem right for those who are more familiar with FedRAMP and FIPS than I am?
I'm going to say yes. It gets more complicated too, because there's different forms of, are you going for medium, are you going high, where are you going, and how much you do is dependent. It is how much you unlock. In other words, classified environments that we will not know about.
Question on the FIPS compliance. We're FIPS compliant. Is that our certification, or is that an external certification that we got approved?
There is a difference between certification and verification. Certification is still going through auditors, but it is us demonstrating that we are using approved cryptographically secure modules to secure the data itself. There is a good bit of self-certification that is to it, but it still involves working through third-party auditors. Second, we've gone through one audit in preparation. That is what led to the removal of MD5 from the entire code base as much as possible. Git internals being an exception, because I think it's a Merkle tree, and the tree and the key for those are MD5s. So that's the Git internals, which is a little bit difficult. The second audit is scheduled to kick off, I think, in 2 days or in 5 days or something like that. And that's where we're going for real.
Sometimes having a more open agenda ends up with really great collaboration and interesting topics, like today.
Yeah.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great day or evening. Cheers.